For the love of Pete!
I don't know what is going on.
Troup, Smooch, and the Dawgs Show. Another new episode is coming up tonight.
It's the Dawgs Show. It's the Dawgs Show. It's the Dawgs Show.
You're listening to the one and only Dawgs Show. Your hosts, Troup Brenson and Smooch Moncrief.
Just two dudes talking Georgia football.
For the love of Pete!
For the love of Pete!
Welcome, dog fans, to the one and only Dawgs Show with Troup and Smooch. And if you put it out there, we're going to make fun of it. And it's forever on our sound bites. We'll use it because it's so good from the Auburn radio group.
Gold.
And the Dawgs Smooch, once again, victorious.
Yes.
And what a game. Another highly offensive output, 43-35 against Ole Miss in Sanford Stadium. We didn't predict it would go this way. We predicted a win. But what we did know is that the Dogs just keep on chopping and chopping. And eventually the cream does rise to the top, and Georgia dominated the fourth quarter 17-0. And that's been a refrain that they have. It's been something they've done many times. It seems like the Dogs are prepared to win late games and to persevere. Yeah. And they are very persistent. And the Dogs move on. Win a game that they could have easily lost.
Absolutely, man. You said it best last week. Let's just enjoy this team for what it is. And that was an offensive game, and it was an offensive game if you're fans of defense. But, it was also a lot of fun. And we just knew. I mean, it's weird. When it's the fourth quarter and Kirby turns to Gunner and says, go get this win, his players believe it. The fans believe it, and you're getting used to seeing it. This is just the DNA of this team this year. Is this if you let us hang around with you to the fourth quarter, you've got no chance in the fourth quarter. We'll talk about those other three in just a second, but it was a game, one of those few games where I could not wait to turn it back on and watch it again. Just for all the finer points that you miss when you watch it live.
As Kirby Smart says, these dogs are hard to kill, and they talk about that a good bit. And I mean, if you had to choose, I guess you can choose different kind of ways you'd enjoy to watch any kind of sporting game. I like 10-9 games sometimes over 3-1. I used to love to watch Greg Maddox pitch some of those 3-1 games or 2-0 games finished in under 2 hours, but a 10-9 game, there's a lot of value in that from our perspective as fans. And so the Dogs are winning those right now. And we're going to talk about this game, snap counts. We're also going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to switch it around, the bad, the good, and the ugly. And we will. We promised you this on the Rapid Reaction that we would definitely talk about what happened defensively. We wanted to have a good time Saturday night and enjoy the victory. And we did. But there's definitely some discussion on that.
Absolutely. Lots to talk about there. We're going to be very honest. And look, guys, we're not trying to sell anyone on anything. We get accused of being too negative sometimes. We get accused of being just blind homers sometimes. And a lot of that had to do with the fact we said, hey, this is not a Mike Bobo problem, and it's certainly not a Gunner Stockton problem. And all of you football knowers attacking on not just our board, but other podcasts, other brothers of us on their shows, you got proven that you saw it proven this past Saturday. This is Mike Bobo called one heck of a game, and Gunner Stockton is the most important player in Athens, Georgia. And it's his team. It belongs to him. Now, I truly expect, Troop, that all the Georgia naysayers, the negative Nancys, there's a few that haunt our media accounts. they're like a frog hopping from lily pad to lily pad. They hop onto the Gunner and Bobo can't play and can't coach lily pad. And then when they're proven wrong, which there's no debate about it now, they're just going to hop to another lily pad and say, well, the defensive line
get him out of here.
Yeah. Right. Now it's Schumann. Get him out. All that. Right. So great game, brother. Yeah.
It was so much fun. And I've been saying this, and I think we were a week late on it. We've been talking about doing a segment or a whole show about Mike Bobo and how he has been spectacular this year. And I hear people every week complain about him. I get criticized on social media, maybe even on my own account on Facebook or whatever. And they're like, you don't know ball. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, but Mike Bobo is having a great season. He's called a great season. And just happened Saturday night, the offensive line got the healthiest they've been all year. Ernest Green came back. Monroe Breeding played the whole game, and they executed very well. That made things so much easier. And so you got to see Gunner Stockton have time to make some of the plays that Mike Bobo was calling. And you were like, wow, where was this? Sometimes you just don't recognize it because you're running for your life or you don't have an opportunity for that play to develop. And the casual fan never sees that. They don't criticize it when we throw a screen to Branch and he makes two guys miss and goes for 13 yards. They criticize it when Oscar Delp misses a block and it gets tackled for a 1 yard loss.
Right.
It's the same play.
It's the same play. I love it. Mike Bobo coached a better game than Gunner Stockton played. Now, Gunner Stockton, player of the week, best player in college football this past Saturday on
That's his
that
second
one
time
day.
winning that offensive award.
Right, second time. And Gunner still left touchdowns on the field because Bobo had schemed people open. That's how good of a game Mike Bobo actually called. It was sensational.
Yeah. So and we're going to talk about the defense momentarily, but it felt like, and I even posted this on our group chat, the dog chat text thread. How many yards do you think Ole Miss had? It felt like they had 600 yards because you didn't stop them. They scored a touchdown every possession until the fourth quarter.
My guess was about 430 yards. That's where I was.
Yeah, we were thinking it felt like 600 yards. They just went up and down the field. You couldn't stop them.
Yep.
350. That's all.
Yep.
350. And let's just look at those overall stats. 351 yards total for Ole Miss, 510 for Georgia. Here's where you separate the men from the boys and where games are won. And 88 yards rushing for Ole Miss, and they were a rushing team. Kewan Lacey was the second leading rusher in the SEC. He didn't do much at all. He had like 3 yards carry. And Georgia had 221. Ooh. And so you saw that whole offensive line do their job. The running backs were running with an attitude. You could see it. They were carrying defenders with them for extra 2 or 3 yards. And so it felt like defensively Georgia gave up a lot more yards because they couldn't get a stop. Only 350 for the ball game. And the fourth quarter they got like 12 yards in the fourth quarter. So nothing to worry there. Georgia stopped them on 3 straight drives. But we will talk about that. We recapping this game, and you folks, it's Monday night and recording this, so you folks have already watched it and probably rewatched it like we do. And it was just an offensive battle. It was one of those games where sometimes you get in those and you find out it's like a boxing match. Sometimes boxing matches are defensive, sometimes they're offensive. You got to be able to roll with that and trade punches. And Georgia traded punches. They did not blink. We kept talking all game long. Take a deep breath when Ole Miss scores because now our offense can't blink. And we never did. Georgia did not punt, folks. Georgia did not turn it over. They scored on every possession.
Wow.
And that's not common. And give credit to the Georgia offense. And just a game that we enjoyed. And like Smooch said in the intro, enjoy it for what it is because you aren't guaranteed these wins.
That's right.
You aren't. Georgia's a top 5 team, and they are getting better every week. You're seeing some things. Now, they got to get better on defense, but offensively, which was the biggest question coming into the season, what we're going to see offensively.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't have any question at all now.
No, none whatsoever. Early in the season, we even questioned, is Gunner the Gunner is certainly not going to make you lose, but can you win just because you have Gunner Stockton and the other team doesn't, right? That's a big difference, and there's few players like that. We've seen that the last few weeks. These are wins that, unless your name is Stetson Bennett, none of the last few Georgia quarterbacks could have won that game this past Saturday. Gunner did. Georgia won because they had Gunner Stockton and the other team didn't. That's why they won. The feel of the whole thing was very similar to the Ohio State game, where you constantly clawing, trying to get close, couldn't, and then they'd widen the lead back out again, and then you get to the deep water, the fourth quarter, and then it is the Georgia Bulldogs show, and that's exactly what went down.
Yes, so game balls to Coach Stacy Searles and Mike Bobo. They've had heat on them from Georgia fans all year long. Mm-hmm. Georgia's offensive line played the best they played in 2 years.
Yes.
They executed so well. You saw very few missed assignments, and they made blocks on both levels. Mm-hmm. They were hunting contact and driving folks off the ball. And you can say, well, Ole Miss's defense is not that great, and Georgia should. It was kind of a stalemate. You would thought looking at the talent level, but Ole Miss not as talented as they were last year, but we've seen it before. Mm-hmm. And Georgia just executed so much better than they did. Again, aggressively did that. And Bobo called a great game. I will say offensively, looking at this, Gunner Stockton, Zachariah Branch, Dylan Bell. All three running backs, if you want to call out all those guys. Mm-hmm. Nate Frazier, great game. He ran so aggressively. Mm-hmm. And then also Chauncey Bowens, and Josh McCray. All three just did their job, and it was just such a physical effort that they gave, and we love that. Over 220 yards rushing. And then the tight ends, of course, they reemerged. 9 receptions, 3 touchdowns for Lucky.
Lucky number 7.
I was glad to see it. I was glad to see it because Colby Young broke his leg on the second play of the ball game, and we hate that because he was that kind of a dude. He was playing a lot of ways a Brock Bowers kind of a role where he's just finding space and then bullying his way down the field.
He was our go-to guy, absolutely.
So maybe the tight ends will be utilized much more. Mm-hmm. Maybe Dylan Bell, as you saw him have a big game Saturday night as well. And then the O-line O-line, the best game I've seen him have in 2 years.
Yeah, it's amazing how open people can get when you have an extra 1.5 seconds. And the O-line gave it all night. And if you go and watch some of these sweeps, you see early in the game, Georgia would run outside and they'd get stopped for a 2 or 3 yard gain. But you just watch the destruction that was coming with these big guards pulling. And I was watching this with some family members, and one of the folks in the room doesn't watch a lot of football. They're Georgia fans, but they watch Georgia. That's about it. And why do they do these 1 and 2 and 3 yard runs? It's like, because it lets our bigs beat up on your bigs, and we'll take that matchup any day. And by the end of the game, the offensive line beat the will out of the front 7 for Ole Miss.
And that feels good, And this was a game between Saban disciples with Lane, Kiffin, and Kirby Smart. And man, Lane, we told you guys last week that expect Lane to have his best game of the season because he basically had 3 weeks to prepare for Georgia.
Yeah,
they played Washington State last week and then had a bye week, so they had tons of time to just prepare for the Georgia Bulldogs. And we've seen that a couple of times this year. As these coaches have had a little something special for Kirby, and it's looked rough. We've taken a half at least to adjust to some of this, and it looks ugly. And there's some other issues with that, and I really want to get to that point. Yeah. But I wanted to give the game balls and the kudos first, before we got talking about what was going on with the defense. And we did a lot well Saturday night. The fans were great. And our coaching staff was terrific, and our players executed one of the best games we've seen all season.
And I think when you talk about the offensive line, some of these kids, I think Juan Gaston had his absolute best game, top to bottom. I don't usually get into the grades for the players. I see them from time to time. I'm just looking at how many times I saw Ole Miss players getting up off their backside with Juan Gaston standing over them. That's literally what I was looking for, and it happened time and time again. And one time he got 2. He flattened 2 guys. That type of thing, it's beautiful to see. And you're wondering why Gunner looks so comfortable and why they could put up darn near 50 points against an SEC team. It's because he had extra time to throw. It's just that simple.
I really wanted to talk about the snap counts, and I had it pulled up, and I had it pulled up on 2 different sources, and I've lost it completely. I will tell you that Ernest Green played the majority of the time at right tackle.
Yes.
We're always looking at this offensive line. Of course, Monroe Frilling was back. He played the whole game. Micah Morris played almost every play but 1 snap at left guard. And I saw Gaston come in there and play the freshman at a left guard position at one point. And Glover was so good at right guard.
He was fabulous.
Yep, so good. And then, of course, like I said, Gaston and Green both played right tackle. But Green, who we haven't seen in a few weeks, it was good to see him back in there doing his thing and doing a good job. He held up. Smooch has mentioned this before. If you don't notice an offensive lineman, it's like not noticing the home plate umpire in a baseball game. You're doing a pretty good job.
You're doing a great job when no one's calling your name. That's right.
Unless you were like a real ball knower and you're watching this stuff on like the third watch, you're like, oh my gosh.
Well, that's what I was getting at with the
adjustment.
right. Yeah, that's what I was getting at with the right tackle thing. Had we not told you that Gaston and Green were splitting time at right tackle, would you have known? You wouldn't have. It was solid play there all night.
And the question was on defense, Smooch, losing Kyron Jones to a leg injury last week in practice. Who would Georgia just rotate like Aguero or DeMelo Jones back there? And that's a tough ask for 1 week. And they didn't. They put who we thought was the number 1 starter coming into the season, to Corey Thomas, number 20. He played most of the game. And you didn't see him stand out again. You didn't see him again. A DB is kind of similar. If you don't have to call their name over and over, they're just doing a good job. If you don't call Dalen Everett a whole lot, either they're not targeting him or he's just doing his job. And so Corey Thomas played well. Now, Ole Miss did throw a lot of underneath stuff. We knew they would. They came out and ran the quick game, a lot of quick passes. The ball was out so quickly because they were trying to protect. You got to feel like Trinidad Chambliss, even though he's had a really good season in his first time in the SEC and his first time on the road in this kind of an environment, they were trying to protect him, and they had a game plan to get the ball out as quick as you can.
Yeah.
And so he did. He was throwing the ball quick. Then he got some confidence, and he was playing his ball game, running the ball as well.
He did. Yeah, I was going to say that with Trinidad Chambliss, we suggested on the show last week in the countdown to kickoff that this moment may be too big for him. And for 3 quarters, he proved us wrong. And for the 4th quarter, he proved us right. He played 3 outstanding quarters. And then just things like you mentioned in the pre-show, just the basic law of averages and then the noise of the crowd. The crowd was louder in the 4th quarter than they were in the first. That was unbelievable. All of that did seem to get to him at the end, and Georgia got stronger at the end of the game. Ole Miss got weaker. That was the difference in the ballgame.
Yes. Sometimes all it takes is one incomplete pass where you start questioning yourself.
Yeah.
And then momentum was definitely on Georgia's side at that point. And the crowd a lot of people there who were there were saying this was so loud.
Yeah.
Put Georgia in a position in the 4th quarter, and you're going to see those fans. They were good all game long, and so they did their job. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, or the bad, the good, and the ugly. Let's do it that way because we got so many people asking about, and we've teased it about Georgia's defense. Because as good as Saturday night was, that doesn't feel like a Georgia defense unless it's a game again. I mean, again, Kiffin. But unless it's a game where you just totally outmatched or totally on, equally yoked, I don't feel like we were. But that feels like, again, there's something wrong. We were talking about bad starts, and Georgia has been a team that started slow defensively. This went through the 3rd quarter, and they did not get a stop. They scored touchdowns on every possession. They had 35 points in the first 3 quarters without having to punt the ball. But so I wrote this down, Smooch, and there's 3 things in terms of Georgia's defense. And first of all, people are saying, before I get to those 3 things, we're just not as talented. We're just not that talented of a team. Wrong.
That's incorrect.
You're wrong. Because you can't. Yeah. You can't name 3 teams that have more talent than Georgia does, who is recruited better. And when we talk about Georgia recruiting top 3 classes every year, top 2 classes every year, it's skewed to the defense
heavily.
And there are the defensive line, the linebackers, the defensive backfield, all just more skewed towards 5-star, not even just 4-star, just one of the most talented recruiting defenses in the country. So it's not that we're suffering from talent.
No.
The 3 things I wrote down, Smooch, and we're going to talk about these: scheme, inexperience, and schedule. And so those 3 things have contributed to whatever is happening with Georgia's defense right now, because they are very, very talented. And most teams, most coaching staffs are envious of the guys we have on our defensive roster. So let's hit the first thing. And since we always kind of look at coaching, our scheme has been a question all year long. Me and Smooch sat at the Alabama game, and Smooch was not happy with the scheme at all.
No, he was not.
What do you think about what we've been doing scheme-wise?
I think that the Georgia's defensive scheme is an intellectual scheme. It is not an attack scheme. It's a read and react scheme, executed to darn near perfection in 2021 with a couple of different coaches and a roster that you're not going to see anymore now that NIL's here. That being said, if you have the players to run it perfectly, it's a beautiful scheme. What we're seeing now, and it really leans on the youth thing that you mentioned as well, you see players caught looking and trying to figure out where they're supposed to be far too often. And there seems to be a keep them in front mentality rather than challenge them for the ball mentality. And that all works sometimes. I know you have to mix all of this stuff in, but it feels like the pin your ears back and attack and let's go whoop somebody, that this group hasn't found that gear yet, and especially not early in a game. They haven't found it. They've looked in the first half of all these games like they're trying to figure it out. And
reactionary.
And the players are just too good to be still reacting rather than play starts. I know what my 3 responsibilities are. I take this guy out of the backfield. If he gets to this part of the field, I drop him into the zone behind me. I come up. That split-second decision just isn't there with these players. And so do we insist that they progress in the scheme, or do we alter the scheme more to their youth and aggression? That's kind of the frustration. And I saw it during Alabama. We saw it some during Tennessee. That's kind of an outlier. You can throw that out. They run something so different. But we really saw it in this game. And we're going to talk about the one play that I think sums it all up. And you can talk on this. I got it. You know what I'm talking about? The cover zero. Cover zero means, everybody's locked up one-on-one, but we gave a 10, 12, even 13-yard cushion to some of the receivers coming off the line. That's the big play, second play of the second half, I believe it was. Yeah. When they throw a little hitch, he takes it, gone.
And I'll speak on that.
Yeah.
Because I watched the game film and wrote notes. We saw that twice. We saw that twice during the game that I noticed. It might have been happening. It might have happened another time, but I don't think so. But it stands out in our mind as, what are you doing? Because it looks so odd. Yeah. Both times it was 2nd and 10. First time was on Ole Miss's second possession, Smooch, and it was 2nd and 10. They're giving they got 7 guys on the line of scrimmage. And so it looks like we're going to send so many people you can't block them.
Like a jailbreak. Right.
Yes, and we got 4 guys on the receivers, 0 coverage. But there's such a cushion. There's a 10-yard cushion. It's 2nd and 10. But there's a 10, 11-yard cushion. The safeties are just a step behind the cornerbacks, but they're all right there.
And you got Kiffin jumping up and down, going, throw it right here.
I mean, if you're just kicking butt defensively, do that, and it looks good. You're like, oh, what are we doing here? We've identified something, and I guarantee you, we thought we had identified something. Yeah, that was a strategic plan in a situation like this. But Georgia had 7 guys on the line of scrimmage, but in that second quarter, they dropped 4. They dropped 4 back into coverage. And they threw a little 5-yard hitch It was 2nd and 10, little 5-yard hitch, and he took it and got 7 more yards after the catch, some yak, and picked up a 12-yard gain for a first down. We're like, oh, what are we doing? And so we only rushed 3 there, but it was trying to confuse people, and maybe we had one backer who didn't get far enough outside to eliminate one of those passing lanes. But, what are you going to do? You're just kind of backpedaling in that situation anyway. And so in the second quarter, it's okay. But Georgia's in a dogfight. You get to the third quarter, same situation, Smooch.
Yeah.
And it's exact same situation in the third quarter, and they do the same thing.
Interesting.
But this time they don't drop 4. They have everybody on the line of scrimmage, so they're really coming for you. But it doesn't take long to throw that pass if it's nobody covering him. And that's when Dalen Everett came up, and it's a tough ask for him, but you got to make that tackle. Make that tackle, you get what Georgia wants. So what Georgia wants in both of those situations, you can agree or disagree with this. They're giving you a reception there. They want it to be 3rd and 4. Because if you catch it, a little 5-yard hitch and it's tackled, best case scenario, 6-yard gain, 3rd and 4. They want to put you in that position and try to get off the field there. But I don't know how much more they're going to use that because, like I said, I looked at it both times, and they one time they rushed 7, one time they just rushed 3, and neither time did it work. One time it was a 75-yard touchdown because there was a cover 0. There's nobody to help you, buddy. It's like being an outfielder and coming up and making a dive for a line drive. It's going to roll to the fence. So you got to make sure you make that play.
Yeah, that's the exact place where I come down on, are we really trying to force feed a scheme that, okay, this team, Georgia, has had an uncharacteristic problem tackling this season. Okay, so what you then do is take a defensive back, a cornerback, which they're not known for tackling in the first place. They should be at Georgia, but they're really not. And then you say, tackle their most electric player in the open field. An open field tackle where there's 20 feet in between you and the guy you're tackling is one of the hardest things to do in sports. And so what are we trying to accomplish when we take a tackling challenge team and say, by the way, go make the hardest possible tackle on the fastest possible player? To me, that I have trouble wrapping my brain around, and that's the reason I don't make $13 million a year to do this. But
so rewatching this game, especially in the first half, let's talk about just the first drive. Georgia got Ole Miss in 3, because we're always trying to get out of off the field. And we said, just get off the field. Find a way to get off the field. 3 third downs on that first drive. Georgia got pressure twice. And so they did get pressure twice. One time, it was just it was great coverage. And I think it was KJ Bolden in coverage and a perfect pass. And they just got 10, just barely got 10 yards on that third down play. It was, you got to give them credit on that. It was on time and got there. Georgia did get pressure on him though, and almost got to him on one of the other possessions. Near inside the 10-yard line was where they blitzed again. And Georgia did blitz in the first half. They blitzed in the first quarter. I saw 20 on a safety blitz. I saw plenty of linebacker blitzes not getting there because guess what? Lane Kiffin's prepared for that, and they're getting the ball out super quick. But
Lacey is good about stepping up and taking on the extra blitzer too. He's very good at
linebackers. Yeah, that's what experience shows you as a running back. An experienced running back picks up linebackers. That's what they do. That's what their job is if on a pass play. But the other play, the big play, was their first touchdown where there's a third down play and Chris Cole beat his man and was right there for the sack and just whiffed on him. And then number 5, Raylan Wilson, couldn't quite get there, dove, tried to make a shoestring tackle, couldn't make that tackle. He did everything he could. He might have been a tad out of position because sometimes we get those linebackers, it feels like in the same gap. They're not positioned correctly. They're not really you got 2 guys performing one linebacker's function sometimes. They just get this eye discipline sometimes, know where you need to be. And Raylan was a little bit too far inside, couldn't get out, make the tackle on Trinidad, and he scored that touchdown. It was a 4-point swing there.
Yeah, and it hung mostly on
field goal.
Yeah, hung mostly on Chris Cole, right? I mean,
just make a tackle, dude.
Yeah, that's a hard thing. I know he's coming in fast, and the technique and how you break it down, how you break down to make that tackle. How many times do you remember seeing N'Kobe run past the quarterback when he got an arm on him and the quarterback taking off and scoring a touchdown? I don't remember ever seeing it. So there's a method to shore that up, but it just looked like over enthusiasm, over excitement. I mean, I think he would have just run right past him, and he got one arm on him, and the guy had not made it. He made the move so late, Trinidad did, that had Chris Cole just collected himself for a textbook open field tackle, we would have at least gotten something on him. That one hurt. Like you said, it was a 4-point play, but it hurt even more than the 4 points, because that's one of our most athletic players getting exactly what you want and just failing at it.
And in that first half especially, it was not just the first half, but C.J. Allen and Aguero just did not have good games in the first half. Man, they missed tackles, and they both had a bust on a play where they had two running backs, and one of them went out in the flat, and one of them ran a route, and they just didn't – they let one of them just go, and it was like a big play down inside the 10, inside the 5-yard line. But it was a nice big pass, big explosive play. And it was missed tackles that bothered me the most. And I saw CJ missing tackles. Aguero missed way too many tackles. That's his thing. Yeah. That's what he does best. And if you're missing tackles and giving extra yards, and that just happened too often. And so I was unimpressed with those guys. And you got to have more. And Georgia just needs to strain more. These guys need to do their job because they're both 4- and 5-star players. Jonah Aguero, 5-star player. Yeah. And I guess that's done. Once you're on campus, you are what you are, what you put on tape. And C.J. Allen, coveted by everybody in the country. And he has good games, and he has games like Saturday where I'm like, oh, come on. Just not where he needs to be. And maybe he's calling a good defense. Maybe he's doing what they tell him to do.
He does,
but
he
is not making enough plays in some of these offensive games.
You know, there's a term used a lot, play speed. He seems to not play fast. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't think he's slow. He just doesn't play fast. He doesn't play with any sort of precognition of what's about to happen. And you see him at times where this is the leader of this defense. He's the quarterback of the defense. He's got it all under control. And then you just see him sometimes lost. And you see players trying to get his back, and then you see all players out of position. And I don't know. Yeah. We've debated the C.J. Allen thing. We've talked to guys that know more X's and O's than we do about the C.J. Allen thing, and everybody's kind of befuddled.
Yeah, some people think he's having the season of his life. Some people thinking that you got to do more. You're not being the Gunnar Stockton of the defense that we need.
There you go.
That's really how you can define that. But that's some of the scheme stuff and player stuff too. But now there's also inexperience as well. And I mentioned scheme, inexperience, and schedule. The inexperience part is you got some of those guys on the defensive line like John Ye and even Quinn Johnson, who's having a good year. And anybody else they put in there. Some of those fellas are just – even you talk about Chris Cole and Justin Williams, they're still very young players.
Yes, absolutely.
And you're seeing some of those issues. And then you go to the defensive backfield, the inexperience, your second safety's inexperienced. I mean, KJ Bolden's got 1 year of experience.
Right.
And so we're really hold him to a high standard. And sometimes we're saying, well, he's doing his job, but he's not making plays like the stud we think he is. And then you got the two redshirt freshmen and Ellis Robinson and DeMello Jones, and they're pretty much splitting snaps. But they had 3 penalties on them Saturday in the first half. You had 2 from Ellis Robinson. I think one was a hold, one was a pass interference.
One was bogus. The other was legitimate. Yeah.
Yeah, and but they're very inexperienced, and so some of the defense I feel like is called to help them, but Ellis is getting more snaps than DeMello right now, 10 or 12 snaps more in a game. I feel like I'm a Swainsboro guy, but I feel like, and a lot of people are seeing this too, DeMello looks like the more confident, more aggressive, not worried about mistakes type player. And maybe that'll be reflected in a couple of weeks. We had an off week this week, bye week. but those guys are inexperienced. There's inexperience on the defensive line. This is really Jordan Hall's first opportunity, really only not his first opportunity, but really at big snaps. And then you look at Christian Miller. He is the bell cow. He's the one who gets the most snaps and one who should be leading. And some of these games like Saturday where all you heard was that Ole Miss's offensive line, their two guards and center could be had. Those guys are just not up to par.
Right.
We can get them. And I watched something today, and we just so many times the offensive line is for Ole Miss was resetting the defensive line and getting push and pushing us back into the backfield. I'm like, that shouldn't happen.
No.
And that's not all inexperience. Some of it is, but it's not all there. I think some of that kind of goes back to scheme too, because Georgia's really just a gap scheme, kind of a defense where they're not trying to get out of place. They want to, but if your defensive linemen are getting pushed in the laps of your linebackers, you're making it so much harder on those guys to play freely and to make plays. And so those things work in tandem. And the third thing, Smooch, is go ahead. I got
one thing on the youth too. I was having this conversation with someone a couple of days ago. The thing is because they were mentioning to me, well, Georgia's played sophomores and even started a freshman in Michael Williams, on some great defenses, and that's all true. But the thing is, when you in 21, 22, when you're at Georgia and you've got a couple of underclassmen or younger guys in the game, who has their back? Well, the guys that have been there, 4-year players, studs have their back. Right now on the Georgia defense, if you make a mistake of youth, you have other youth trying to fill in and kind of get your back on that. And so that is where you're seeing breakdowns that are uncharacteristic. Yeah, you're going to get out of position sometimes when you're young. But the thing is that Georgia does not have this plethora of experience that can sort of get your back in those situations. And so I think that's what exponentially kind of magnifies the difficulties they're having.
Yeah, it does. Typically, you'd sprinkle these guys in there and get them that kind of experience, but Georgia's and a lot of teams are having to rely on that. And so I think the third thing is their Georgia's schedule. So it's the scheme, their inexperience in some key areas, and then the schedule. Just listen to the offensive coordinators in this first half of the season Georgia's had to come up with.
This is good.
And a couple of those, they've had some extra time to prepare for Georgia. You got Lane Kiffin, you got Josh Heupel, you got Grubbs, and then you got Hugh Freeze. Now, Kiffin only had Washington State after a bye week. So he had basically 3 weeks. Heupel only had East Tennessee State before the Georgia game. And then both Freeze and Grubb both had bye weeks before Georgia. So they all, four of those offensive-minded coaches, and Auburn didn't score but 10 points, but they put a scare in Georgia, and it was a low-scoring game. But all those guys are offensive coaches, and they had a lot of time to look at Kirby Smart's defense and put extra eyeballs on what they wanted to do and to just scheme things up just based on the schedule. And you see how it's tough. Sometimes you're seeing stuff as a defense or as defensive coordinators that you have to be reactionary because you don't know. I mean, you can put something. I think sometimes you put something more base out there, and you can send linebacker blitzes, and they do. But it's more base because you don't know where they're going to go with it in their first couple of series and what they're going to move towards. And so you have to kind of read that and react from that, and then you see a better game plan after that. And so I think the schedule has not lent itself with in the first half to Georgia really starting fast defensively. That sounds like an excuse. It's just facts.
That's a huge insight. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, you've got Georgia's taking everyone's best punch with the most preparation. I think that's a great point.
So I hope that answers or gives you some insight, like you said, to Georgia's defense. I still feel like there's room for improvement when you talk about who are they faced in the first half, and it's not quite as scary in the second half, but the playoffs do loom. And you got the inexperienced thing is slowly becoming not a problem, but becoming an advantage as you saw what happened in the fourth quarter. And you see what happened in the second half. These guys are getting trial by fire.
Yeah.
And now you get an off week. Georgia's needed this week. And then you got a Napier getting fired. So, you got to feel like there's going to be some disarray at Florida. And
more so than usual?
There's always disarray at Florida, but more so than usual. Yeah.
Florida man charged with assault with deadly weapon after throwing alligator through Wendy's drive-thru window.
What did the guy say we had last year on? My delusion is real.
Oh, man. Wait. I got you.
My delusion has become real. My delusion has become real.
Yes, I was a Florida fan for sure.
Yeah.
And so you feel like this bye week, it won't be an off week, but this bye week will be focused on some of these younger guys, and it will be. These younger guys are some of the older cats are going to get a little more of a break. The young guys are going to get some more attention and working on their craft.
Yeah.
And take a look at what we've done and what we need to do differently. So you feel like that will be better, but it's still, to me, more about the defensive line. If the defensive line was in any way, having a great year, the defensive problems would slowly disappear.
You wouldn't even really be talking. You wouldn't really be talking about them. Yeah,
And
if they were getting pushed consistently.
But they're still stopping the run.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're doing good things, but then they're just not doing enough, it feels like, from a fan. Because we always want to dominate. We don't want to play 43 to 35 games. Not really.
You could really even say it comes down to one down. If you could just change what the defensive line is doing on third down, a lot of these deficiencies that people keep pointing out would slowly disappear.
Yeah, it would be. And I don't know if there's an answer for that this year. I don't. But you did see Josh Horton get in there, and we didn't anticipate much from him. He's coming, he's from Miami, I think. He's been injured a lot early, and he's only like a sophomore.
Yeah.
But he's been injured, and he batted down that fourth down pass to end the ball game, in effect, Saturday night. And he's kind of twitchy. I didn't realize that was who he was about.
I didn't know much about him.
Some of these guys need to play more. You're going to find out, I think, in the bye week, some of the folks, if Georgia needs to make any moves or change any changes, not eliminating players, but just restructuring a few things. This is the time to do it, because this is going to be the stretch run where Georgia has Florida, Mississippi State, Texas, Georgia Tech. We aren't talking about Charlotte, but
Charlotte's in there. Yeah. They'll win the Charlotte game 9-6. I guarantee you.
Oh my goodness. Let's talk about the good.
Yeah, let's do it.
Obviously, the good from Saturday was Georgia's offense and their resiliency, and I think that all starts with a couple of aspects. Georgia's offensive line played their best game in 2 years, in my opinion. And then Gunnar Stockton has just gotten exponentially better every week. You're starting to see him add different parts to his game where one week he wasn't doing this. Now he's stepping up in the pocket. He's moving. He's not giving ground to run around tackles. He's stepping in, and then he's looking downfield. He's finding receivers. He's turning a 3-yard loss or a no gain into 6-8 yards, and he's choosing the right times to run the ball.
Oh yeah,
and dude, he's a weapon, and we kind of was thinking early on he's not Stetson Bennett, and he's gonna pick up some tough yards here and there, 2 or 3 yards, but he's a weapon with his legs, and he's making it really tough on defenses who think they have everything covered. You just send three to rush and drop everybody back. Oh, Gunner's gonna make you pay for that one.
Yeah. And Gunner likes contact, which I don't really care for, but he does. It endears him to his team, and it also really disheartens the other team. You got a fullback to tackle when Gunner Stockton decides to run. It's a whole different thing than maybe a Stetson Bennett, who was a little more twitchy. But Gunner has that soul-removing size. He just keeps running, runs through arm tackles. And there was a couple of times where Gunner got hit. He was need to make a 10-yard run for a first down. He got hit at 7 or 8 yards and still got the first down. That type of thing that's a plus for your quarterback, of course.
Yep, and the running game's been so consistent. You've seen Frazier; he's gotten better.
Yes,
and we had questions about him being. Still don't know if he's running back number one. I don't think there is a RB1. I think he and Bowens both share that at this point.
I think you're right.
But he's gotten better. The ball security is better. You can see the way he carries the ball. And he's gotten more patient, and he is I don't say he breaks all the tackles because who could, but he is punishing defenders. We saw that Saturday where he was getting extra yards after contact, which has been the big knock on him because he hasn't done that. But he is. Even if it's just 2 yards, just fall forward. Just take a defender with you every once in a while. And Bowens is still – I love the way he runs. He twists and turns and gets extra yardage every time. And if you try to arm tackle him, he will make you pay for it. We've seen him bounce out, Smooch.
Yeah.
And pick up big chunk yardage if you're going to give that to him. And so him and then McCray, I love to watch McCray and how he gets a tough yardage. And he is not even on that play where we converted that 4th down.
4th and 1. That's on my good list. I'm looking at it right here. 4th and 1, McCray.
That's a good one. Yeah. And now they kind of pushed Georgia's offensive line back into him. He really didn't get grabbed. He was just running into his own offensive lineman. And they kind of shrank his area, but he just kept moving. He didn't fall down because he kept moving and pushed forward. Big, strong man, got the yards. If he doesn't get that, we're talking about a different game because that was on Georgia's side of the 50-yard line, and they had to have it.
They had to have it. And the confidence. They knew giving him that ball, whatever he has to do, he'll do it. That was not where that play was designed to go, by the way. Whatever he had to do, he did it. That's when your coach has that kind of confidence. He wasn't in the flow of the game. He had hardly been out there at all, right, to that point. But this is the time we need you. Go do your thing, and he did it. That was a huge 4th and 1.
Yep, and so the consistency of those running backs and the way the offensive line and those guys are playing together makes you feel a little relieved, and you feel like you should be able to get that. That's something you can count on because you've been able to count on it all season. And again, Gunnar Stockton adds something new every week, improves on something new every week, which means we all already knew this, but he's totally bought in. There's nothing else going on in his life that's taking his attention away right now.
No,
he's trying to be the best he can be. And the thing that I like about him is, as a quarterback, you're judged on what you do on 3rd downs.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't make if there's not somebody open and something's covered, he's making it happen with his feet most of the time, it feels like, on 3rd down. He's just an extra +1 is so huge in that situation. And he makes people miss, makes that first guy miss, and then he's going to punish you and get extra yards. And so just converting those 3rd downs and staying on the field has been, I didn't know if he would be able to do that this year. I thought maybe next year.
Right.
But it's tough. In this first year, he looks like a guy who has just grown. He's grown quicker in just a short amount of time than I expected.
He really has. And I'll tell you another thing about Gunnar. If you want a similarity between Gunnar Stockton and Stetson Bennett, it is this. There's not a lot, believe it or not, but if you want a similarity between the two players, Gunnar Stockton, Stetson Bennett, it is this. They play their best football when it matters the most. And few players at the quarterback position you can say that about. They play better when it means the most. We saw a glimmer of it from Gunnar on that 4th down touchdown to London Humphreys a few weeks ago, and we saw it from Gunnar in this game. When it mattered the most, he played like the best player on the field, and that's all you can ask for your quarterback.
Just flipping pages here. I think we're going to get now, I do believe, to the ugly.
I got one more good.
Go ahead.
One more good. Gunner's hold on that field goal. I think we got to talk about that Gunner scooping that ball off the ground and getting the low snap that Gunner gets set up right for that kick. You could even see it in the kicker's response afterwards. That's a very untalked about play that I thought was huge. I was walking around the house trying to get people to appreciate it, and they didn't know what I was talking about. But I thought that was huge.
They even asked him that in the post game. He said, "What about that?" It's the same thing you said. He was like, wasn't that hard?
Shucks, man. I don't know.
Wasn't that hard? It was not bad. Not that bad. I do it a lot. But let's move on from the good, the bad, to now to the really ugly. And the ugly we're not even talking about Georgia. So we got good and bad with Georgia. And then we kind of do a read and react a little bit, but looking at other games, of course, Florida's Napier did get fired, and they're going to be looking for their successor. I don't know who the interim is right now. I don't think it matters. They were already we're
going to have two Florida teams going to be looking for coaches soon, because I got a feeling Florida State guys not far behind.
I think they're going to keep him to the end of the season, what I read pre-show. Yeah. And make a decision on him afterwards. So, but yeah, they lost. I mean, yeah, Florida State's looking like we thought they would, pretty much. And other than that first game in the season,
I know. What an outlier! What an outlier!
The ugly would be what we saw again with the preseason #1 team in the country, the Heisman Trophy winner. I think he's had to send the trophy back.
Yeah, they already had to take his name off of it now. They already had it embossed or whatever.
Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns, man. And normally I would look at a trip to Lexington in Kentucky and say, well, that just happens to a lot of good teams. If we didn't have a lot of, had already seen Texas play before this season. Some sample. We have seen it. Well, they went to Georgia put 35 points on Kentucky this year, but it was at home at least. Mm-hmm. Texas won in overtime, 16-13 against Kentucky. Kicked a lot of field goals. I guess that's just 1 touchdown and 3 field goals. I do want to look at their scoring drives, and I want you to pay attention to this. Yes.
Blow me away with this. I'm excited.
So they had 1, 2, 3, 4 scoring drives. We'll talk about that overtime scoring drive, which was a field goal, which they lost 2 yards on. Mm-hmm. So they didn't gain any ground in overtime, but kicked the field goal. And then, but start off the game, they did score first. It was a 3-play, 5-yard drive.
Oh,
the only touchdown
3 plays
was just
yards.
A 5-yard drive.
Their only touchdown was a 5-yard drive.
And
those are much easier than normal drives, by the way. 5 yards, yes.
Their longest drive of the game was their second scoring drive to put them up 10-3. 6 plays, 40 yards. 40 is their longest drive.
Their longest drive. And
they kicked the field goal there. Then in the fourth quarter, they kicked another field goal for 7 plays, 21 yards. Wow. Was the drive in the fourth quarter.
Oh, that's a shame.
And they kicked that field goal to kick like a 13-10 lead. Overall, Smooch, look at these stats. 180 total yards for Texas in this game. They gave up 400 yards to Kentucky, who is offensively challenged. We already know that.
Yeah.
They lost the time of possession 40-20 to Kentucky. And Arch Manning was, again, this is similar numbers we've seen him have in SEC already this season. 12 out of 27 for 132 yards.
My goodness, that is not
They're coming to Athens in just a few weeks.
They're coming to Athens in a few weeks.
That's ugly.
Keep the foot on the gas. That is ugly. And, as much we knew a similar narrative to what we're seeing now was coming. We talked about it all off season. We dealt with the frustration of hearing, is this the best quarterback in the last 3 generations, things like that. And now it's gotten to be such a punchline that I'm actually starting to feel bad for the kid. He just wants to play football. But it's not his fault. It's the fault of everybody that was pumping him up without ever seeing him really play football. And it's just gotten to this point. And I'll tell you this, Troop. So I watched the end of that game. I watched the fourth quarter and overtime of that game. And Kentucky inexplicitly ran up the middle, which is Texas's only strength, is their defense right up the middle. They ran up the middle on 3rd and 1 and then 4th and 1 to lose the game. That's how in overtime they didn't score. So they went forward on 4th and a half a yard, ran right up the middle, didn't get it. And that was the ball game. That was it. So then Texas gets the ball, they lose yards, kick a field goal. That's how it went down. So it was not it. Aside from a 1-yard stop, there was very little impressive. And Kentucky, like I said, they get that first down, they probably win that game because Texas has not been doing much of anything. And it's sometimes I don't like how right you and I are all the time because I actually feel guilty. But we called this one, guys. We said, I can't remember where we said it or what show. It was one of our preseason shows where we said, what if Texas comes to Georgia with 3 losses? We wanted it to be an exciting game when it gets there. And they're not there yet, but they're flirting with losing to Kentucky, getting ready for this huge game. That being said, I wouldn't put it past Arch Manning to have 300 yards passing in Athens.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, because Georgia got about 3 weeks to work on that one. I just hope that they if you don't run the ball against Georgia, you got a tough time, especially when you don't have a superior quarterback. And Arch, maybe next year Arch will be that quarterback. He's just not this year. And we called that. I did call that.
Yeah.
That this might not be his year. Give him next year. Don't think he can come in and step in. It really happens.
Yeah. And he's a talented kid.
Yeah, of course. He's got the measurables. You just got to be able to process and do it in game. interesting enough, Georgia moves up to number 5 in the AP poll. 2 engineering schools that you would never have expected to be in the top 10 at this point of the season. Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt, both in the top 10. Vanderbilt with only 1 loss, I think. And they beat LSU, and they were favored to do it.
They were.
But Diego Pavia, it can't just be Diego. Yeah, he's the straw that stirs the drink. Mm-hmm. But they've put some. I think it's one of those lightning in the bottle type seasons.
Yeah,
I mean they did some things last year, but to do it again this year. And I don't know what Vandy will probably be back to normal next year.
Can you imagine if they still had London Humphreys this year?
I know. I thought about that.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I think we are seeing lightning in a bottle. I'm not sure this is sustainable, what they're doing, but it is darn fun to watch.
It's fun.
It really is.
And then Georgia Tech I was impressed with them after watching them play last year, and I still say, they should be undefeated when we played them in the Benz late this year, right around Thanksgiving. And that's going to be an all-out battle. But, I mean, we don't like Georgia Tech. I still don't fear them whatsoever. I don't, that's not a game I'm like, oh, no. I respect the way Haynes King and the way they play ball, at least this year. And I'm excited to get to that. But I'm giving them some credit for being how long has it been since both of us been in the top 7? I couldn't even tell you.
No, I would have to go look that up. I couldn't even guess.
And stinking Indiana at number 2. And people are saying Indiana would beat Georgia. Maybe they would, but
Indiana wouldn't beat Georgia Tech. I'll put it out there right now. They wouldn't.
I mean, they beat Oregon, and so they're winning. They're undefeated. It's like one of them games where, I'm not a believer until they can do it a full season, and so they're going to be like I discredit for different reasons Penn State, but for different reasons because they're Indiana. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Signetti. What?
There you go. Either one.
He's good for the sport. That dude is good TV. So I do like listening to him jaw. So I mean, I kind of want him to have some success just to keep him in the spotlight because he is fun.
Yeah, he thinks he's Steve Spurrier with all the sound bites, but we'll see.
That's a perfect analogy.
Right. But yeah, we got an off week and a bye week. We'll figure out what we're going to do later this week. So there's going to be no countdown to kickoff, but we might put something together. Yeah. We like doing this a good bit. Mm-hmm. And if you guys still were on the anti-Bobo train, I knew what we were going to do, but now it just seemed like we're preaching to the choir because everybody's like, Bobo's good. He's okay.
Yeah, he's passable now, guys. Right? You think it's going to work?
Acceptable. He's doing a really good job.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And but yeah. A game like Saturday where Georgia doesn't have to punt and doesn't turn it over, we'll do that to a fan base, not just Georgia's fan base. It gets a lot of coaches off the hot seat.
Yeah.
And we're here for it. I did like seeing there was a couple of things with Lane Kiffin. And what a great play caller he is. And you could see on the sideline, if you really watch him on the sideline, there were certain defensive alignments Georgia would line up in, and he was like losing his mind.
He had been waiting for it.
This is it. I told you.
This is what was coming.
And hit it. And he had the quarterback and the receivers to do it. And but just seeing him and Kirby after the game, even during the game, he you see him grab one of the officials when he called a timeout. He says, "I was just clapping."
Oh,
I was just
clapping. Come on. I saw that was disgusting.
So good. Then him and Kirby got together after the game on the field. And then after the field, we saw a picture of them for about 5 or 6 minutes. They said they were talking underneath, in the stadium. Mm-hmm. And so good friends, good guys, because they both coached with Saban. Yeah. And there's always been, even Kirby would say, Lane was the troublemaker. I was paying attention. I was listening to meetings. I was like, get away from me. Mm-hmm. Stop. You're going to get us in trouble. We're going to get a spanking. And so they have an interesting relationship. They have a chat group.
That is wild. Yeah. Yeah.
Their little chat group. Kirby kind of leads it. Kirby will kick you off or bring you on.
Yeah.
But Lane's the one that always says stuff that, you can't repeat, or he's the entertaining one. And
the picture that was getting shared around social media last year after the Ole Miss game of Kirby over Lane Kiffin's knee, and he's giving him a spanking, that was shared by Lane Kiffin to Kirby Smart on that very thread.
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly. Good stuff.
All right, well, we'll wrap this one up. Smooch, Dawgs 43-35, one of those games. We'll look back on this season when we're kind of looking at the games later on, and this will be one of those other ones that we just enjoy. We soak it up and say, hey, let's fast forward to the fourth quarter and see how that one goes. But so excited. So glad that Georgia's still at this point of the season with only one loss. And
Yeah.
we all are.
It's been a great season. You have to look
Yep,
get
yep.
what it is. Yeah.
All right, folks. We will get back to you momentarily in a couple of days, hopefully. For Smooch Moncrief, this is Troup Brenton saying so long. We'll see you soon.
Who died and made you queen of football?
This is the Dog Show with Troup and Smooch.
It's the dog show. It's the dog show. It's the dog show. It's the dog show.